Have you ever wondered if the way you've been pleasuring yourself might actually be working against you instead of helping you? It's not something most people talk about, especially after the age of 60. But for many older men, self-pleasure has become less satisfying, more mechanical, and in some cases, even uncomfortable. And here's the truth that rarely gets said. Some of the habits that felt natural and enjoyable in your 30s or 40s might now be quietly harming your body in ways you never expected. That's exactly what I learned after speaking with Dr. Michael Bennett, a urologist with more than 30 years of experience helping men maintain their health, energy, and confidence as they age. He told me something I think every man over 60 needs to hear. After a certain point in life, your body changes, and if you don't change with it, you could be slowly training yourself to feel less, not more. According to Dr. Bennett, the way you masturbate after 60 matters, a lot more than you might think. The techniques, rhythms, and mindset that once brought you pleasure can start working against your nervous system, your circulation, even your prostate health. And here's the thing, most men don't realize it. They just notice that pleasure feels different, less intense, less satisfying, or sometimes just not there at all. It's easy to chalk that up to aging, but Dr. Bennett says it's often not aging alone. It's the habits we carry forward without questioning them. You see, the male body doesn't stop wanting connection, but the ways it responds to touch, stimulation, and arousal shift over time. And if no one ever taught you how to adapt to those changes, well, you're not alone. Most men were never given that kind of guidance. They simply keep doing what they've always done, hoping it still works. And when it doesn't, they blame themselves. They think they're broken. Or worse, that their sexuality is behind them. But that couldn't be further from the truth. What Dr. Bennett made clear is this: your body isn't shutting down. It's just asking for something different, something slower, something softer, something more present. The real issue isn't whether you still have desire. It's whether you're willing to listen to your body with the same care and curiosity that it's asking for now. So in the next few minutes, I want to share with you what Dr. Bennett has taught me: 4 common mistakes men over 60 often make when it comes to self-pleasure. These are habits that can quietly erode your sensitivity, strain your tissues, and reduce your overall enjoyment, even if you have the best intentions. But don't worry. For every mistake, there's a solution. Dr. Bennett has also outlined 4 gentle, practical ways you can reconnect with your body and rediscover what pleasure feels like at this stage of life. Not as a goal to chase, but as a relationship to nurture. This is not about shame, it's not about performance, and it's definitely not about giving anything up. It's about honoring the man you are today, not the version of you from 20 or 30 years ago. Your body deserves care. It deserves respect. And yes, it still deserves pleasure. So if you've ever found yourself wondering why things don't feel the same anymore, if you've been frustrated by how hard it is to connect, or if you've quietly questioned whether something might be wrong with you, I want you to know you're not alone. And you're not broken, you're simply in a new season of life, one that calls for a new kind of attention. Let's take a closer look at the first mistake many men make, and how, with just a small shift in awareness, you can begin to reclaim your sensitivity, your confidence, and your connection to pleasure. Let me ask you something that many men don't pause to consider. When was the last time you truly slowed down during self-pleasure, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally? For many men I've spoken with, especially those over 60, the answer is, it's been a while. And here's the tricky part. Rushing through the experience doesn't always feel wrong in the moment. It may even seem practical. But over time, that habit can quietly strip away both sensitivity and satisfaction, leaving behind something mechanical, disconnected, and unfulfilling. Dr. Michael Bennett, the urologist I've been learning from, says this is one of the most common and overlooked mistakes men make after 60. He calls it automatic mode. You're not thinking, you're not feeling, you're just doing quickly, quietly, and usually with the intention to get it over with. Maybe it's become a nightly habit. Maybe it's a way to relieve tension before bed. Or maybe it's something you squeeze in between responsibilities, hoping no one walks in. Whatever the reason, the pattern is often the same. No presence, no breath, no curiosity. Just finish and move on. The problem is, your body knows the difference. Rushing doesn't just skip past the emotional connection. It changes how your nervous system processes the entire experience. When you move too fast, your brain begins to associate touch with urgency, not relaxation. Your breath becomes shallow. Your heart beats harder, but not in a good way. It's not the warm, excited pulse of arousal. It's the tight, anxious rhythm of someone trying to escape, not connect. And what starts as a small shortcut slowly becomes a wall between you and true pleasure. I remember a man in his late 60s who came to Dr. Bennett feeling frustrated. He was a retired military officer, disciplined, organized, and proud. But when it came to self-pleasure, he told us, "I still have the urge, but I don't feel anything anymore. It's like I'm just going through the motions." When Dr. Bennett asked him to describe his routine, it was always rushed. No warm-up, no breathing, no attention to sensation. Just a quick release in the dark, often followed by a sense of emptiness. This is more common than most people realize. And it's not about weakness or failure. It's about what happens when we treat pleasure like a task instead of a connection. Your body isn't a machine that you need to fix. It's a living part of you that deserves attention, respect, and care, especially now. What Dr. Bennett often suggests, and what I've found to be powerful myself, is to start by slowing everything down, not just your hands, but your mind. Create space, even if it's just 10 minutes, where you're not rushing, not checking the clock, not waiting to be interrupted. Give yourself permission to feel without having to perform. Take a few deep breaths. Let your shoulders drop. Approach your body like an old friend, not a project. You don't need candles or music unless you want them. This isn't about making it romantic. It's about making it real. And here's what's remarkable. When men start slowing down, something begins to shift. The nerves wake up again. The blood flow improves. The body starts to feel more, not less. What used to be a task becomes something nourishing. A small pocket of peace. A moment of connection. A reminder that you are still here, still capable of feeling, still deserving of care. So the next time you catch yourself rushing through the experience, pause. Ask yourself why. Is it habit? Is it guilt? Is it discomfort? And then remind yourself that you're allowed to slow down, not because you're getting older, but because you're wise enough to know that pleasure isn't about speed, it's about presence. When you give yourself that kind of presence, even a few quiet minutes can become something powerful, something honest, something that tells your nervous system, your heart, and your soul, you still matter. Let's talk about something that very few men feel comfortable admitting, even to themselves. When sensitivity starts to fade, the natural instinct is to compensate. And for many men over 60, that means one thing: gripping harder. It starts innocently enough. Maybe the usual touch doesn't feel quite as stimulating, so you tighten your grip a little. Then, a little more. You move faster, with more force, hoping to spark something real. But what seems like a simple adjustment can quietly turn into one of the most damaging habits of all. Dr. Michael Bennett refers to this as death grip syndrome. It's not an official diagnosis, but it's a term that's become more and more common among urologists, therapists, and men's health specialists. It describes a condition where repeated, intense pressure, especially during self-pleasure, leads to reduced sensitivity, nerve fatigue, and in some cases, a kind of rewiring of the brain. The body becomes conditioned to respond only to one very specific kind of stimulation. And often, that's a level of friction that no partner, no matter how loving or skilled, could ever replicate. What makes this so tricky is that it usually develops gradually. At first, it feels like you're just doing what you need to do to feel something. But over time, the tissues inside the penis, those tiny blood vessels, soft muscle fibers, and delicate nerve endings, begin to suffer. The nerves get dulled. Micro tears form in the skin. The body starts to respond less to natural, gentle stimulation and more only to high-intensity grip. Before long, pleasure feels out of reach unless you repeat the exact same rough pattern. And even then, it doesn't always work. One man in his early 70s said it best. He told Dr. Bennett, "I thought I was keeping myself alive, but really, I was wearing myself out." That sentence has stayed with me because it speaks to something many men never say out loud. The pressure to feel something, anything, can become so strong that we stop asking what the body actually needs. We chase sensation like it's a problem to solve, not a message to receive. But here's the good news. The body, even in later years, is incredibly resilient. And with a few gentle shifts in approach, you can begin to undo some of that conditioning. It starts with one simple act, loosening your grip. I know that might feel strange at first. It may even feel like you're not doing enough. But that's part of the process. You're retraining your nervous system to respond to subtlety, not just pressure. And that takes time. Dr. Bennett often recommends using a natural, fragrance-free lubricant. Not only does this reduce friction and protect the skin, but it also encourages a slower, smoother rhythm. It turns the experience from something harsh and repetitive into something more fluid and nourishing. Think of it like rehabbing a sore muscle. You wouldn't keep pressing on it with all your strength. You'd stretch it gently. You'd listen to it. You'd give it space to heal. And more than just changing your technique, there's a mindset shift that needs to happen too. Instead of seeing self-pleasure as something you do to your body, try seeing it as something you do for your body. As care, not performance. As connection, not just release. That small change in perspective can transform the whole experience. One of Dr. Bennett's patients told him after just a few weeks of trying this, "It's not just that I feel more, it's that I care more. I'm finally present with myself." That's the heart of this message. The goal isn't more force, it's more presence. The goal isn't to reach a peak. It's to remember that you're still alive, still able to feel, and still deserving of pleasure that's rooted in kindness, not tension. So if you found yourself gripping harder, rushing faster, or needing more intensity just to feel a flicker of pleasure, pause, loosen, slow down. Your body is asking for something different, and when you give it that, it just might surprise you. Let me share something I've come to understand after many heartfelt conversations with men in their 60s and beyond. One of the most overlooked parts of physical pleasure is not physical at all. It's emotional. And when we disconnect from that part of ourselves, we often find that the body stops responding. Not because something is broken, but because something important has been left out. Dr. Michael Bennett has seen this time and again in his practice. He says that many men come to him thinking they've lost their drive, or that their body isn't working like it used to. But after just a few questions, it becomes clear that what's really missing isn't sensation, it's connection. Emotional connection. And that's something our generation was never really taught to value, especially as men. From a young age, many of us were raised to believe that emotions and masculinity don't belong in the same room. We were expected to be strong, silent, and in control. Vulnerability was seen as weakness, and pleasure? That was something physical, nothing more. No one ever said, "It's okay to feel tender," or "It's okay to want to feel loved," even when you're alone. So for many men, the emotional side of pleasure was quietly buried under layers of shame, confusion, or silence. I remember one man Dr. Bennett worked with, a 65-year-old retired engineer. He hadn't touched himself in nearly 10 years. Not because he didn't have desire, but because every time he tried, he felt like he was walking into a room he didn't belong in. That's how he described it. Like entering a space where I wasn't welcome. But the room wasn't a place. It was a feeling. A quiet, heavy discomfort that lived in his chest. And when they gently explored it together, it became clear that what he felt wasn't physical rejection. It was emotional shame. Years of being told that pleasure was wrong or childish or something to hide. That kind of emotional disconnection doesn't just sit in the mind. It lives in the body. It shows up in tension, in shallow breath, in numbness. You can go through all the right motions but still feel nothing. Or worse, feel lonely afterward. And that loneliness isn't because of age, it's because the heart hasn't been invited into the experience. So what do you do when you realize that the body isn't the only thing needing attention? You begin by offering yourself compassion. You remind yourself that emotions aren't a threat to pleasure. They're part of it. They give it meaning. They allow it to feel real rather than hollow. Dr. Bennett often tells his patients to begin with presence, not performance. Before you even touch your body, check in with your heart. What are you carrying today? Is it sadness? Longing? Uncertainty? That's okay. Those feelings don't disqualify you from pleasure. They're part of what makes you human. And when you make space for them, not push them away, you begin to create an environment where your body feels safe to respond. Some men find it helpful to breathe deeply before starting. Others sit quietly for a moment and gently remind themselves, I don't need to be perfect. I just need to be honest. That's where healing begins, not with a technique, but with an attitude of acceptance. When you allow your emotions to come with you, instead of shutting them out, the whole experience changes. It becomes less about release and more about relationship. Not with someone else, but with yourself. One man told Dr. Bennett, "For years, I thought I had to earn pleasure. Now I realize it's something I can give myself, just by being kind." That kind of shift doesn't happen overnight. But each time you show up for yourself with gentleness instead of judgment, you build something new. A quiet sense of trust. A deeper form of connection. If you've ever felt numb, distant, or strangely guilty during self-pleasure, I want you to know it's not just in your head, it's in your history. And that history doesn't have to define you. You have the right to feel, the right to enjoy, the right to welcome every part of yourself, including the emotional parts, into the experience. Because pleasure isn't just about the body, it's about presence. And when your heart is included, your body will know, it will respond. Not with performance, but with something far more meaningful, a sense of being whole. Let me ask you something that doesn't get asked enough. When you touch yourself now, are you doing it based on how your body feels today, or based on how it used to feel 30 or 40 years ago? It's an important distinction. And for many men I've spoken with, the answer is the same. They're still following the old script, the one from their 20s, the one their body has quietly outgrown. Dr. Michael Bennett calls this mistake living through muscle memory. And while it might sound harmless, it's one of the most common reasons older men feel disconnected from their pleasure. They're stuck in patterns that used to work, but now just lead to frustration. The same positions, the same pace, the same expectations. It becomes a ritual of repetition, predictable, automatic, and sadly, less and less satisfying. One of Dr. Bennett's patients, a man in his late 60s, described it perfectly. He said, "I keep doing what I used to do, hoping the old feeling will come back. But instead, it's like I don't even recognize my body anymore." That sense of distance isn't imagined. It's what happens when we expect our body to behave like it's 25, even though it's quietly asking us to treat it like it's 65. Here's the truth. Your body is not failing. It's changing. And those changes are not the end of pleasure. They're an invitation to relearn it. But if we ignore the signals and keep forcing our body to respond the old way, we begin to lose trust in ourselves. We start to wonder, what's wrong with me? When really, nothing is wrong. What's needed is an update, a new approach based on who you are today, not who you used to be. Dr. Bennett explains that after 60, your nervous system responds differently. Your skin may be more sensitive in some areas, less so in others. Blood flow may take more time. The body's arousal map shifts, not dramatically, but enough to require a new level of attention. If you're still using techniques from decades ago, you may be unintentionally skipping over what your body actually wants now. Think of it like a favorite song from your youth. You still love it. It still matters to you. But if you try to live every day with that one song on repeat, eventually, it loses its meaning. The same is true with touch. Nostalgia has its place, but real connection happens in the present. So what can you do if you've been stuck in old patterns? First, start by listening, not to your memory, but to your body. What sensations feel different now? What areas respond more than you expected, or less? Approach your body like it's new territory, not a routine you've memorized. Get curious, take your time. Notice what shifts when you let go of the goal, and focus on the journey. Second, release the pressure to recreate the past. That's not where your power is anymore. Your power is in this moment. In meeting your body with presence, patience, and the willingness to explore without judgment. You might be surprised by what you discover, not just physically, but emotionally. One man shared that after making this shift, he didn't just feel more sensation, he felt more at peace. It was the first time in years I felt like I was in the same room as myself, he said. That's the gift of being present. not chasing what was, but honoring what is. Finally, remind yourself that updating your habits isn't a loss. It's growth. It's a sign that you're evolving, not giving up. You're not less of a man for needing something different. In fact, you're more in tune, more compassionate, more connected. So let go of the script. Let go of the pressure to repeat what worked decades ago. Your body isn't a relic. It's a living, breathing part of you, one that still deserves to be touched, to be felt, and to be understood, not with memory, but with presence, not with force, but with kindness. That's where real pleasure begins, right here, right now, with who you are today. Sometimes the smallest shift makes the biggest difference. And when it comes to rediscovering pleasure after 60, one of the most powerful things you can do is this: slow down. Not a little, a lot. Let go of speed, let go of pressure. Replace it with softness, replace it with breath. That's where real sensation begins. Dr. Michael Bennett often says, after 60, your body doesn't respond to force. It responds to care. And I've seen this truth over and over again. Men who've been stuck in a cycle of frustration suddenly feel something different, something new, simply because they chose to touch themselves with the same care they might offer a loved one. One man in particular, a retired firefighter, had spent years feeling numb. He described it like pushing buttons that didn't do anything. At first, he thought it was just age, that maybe his pleasure had faded for good. But Dr. Bennett encouraged him to try something different, not to fix, not to achieve, but to explore. He guided him through a slow breathing routine, invited him to touch not just his genitals, but his chest, his thighs, his neck, places he hadn't thought to explore in decades, and most importantly, to do it gently, like he was learning a new instrument. Within weeks, something shifted. He didn't just feel more physically, he felt more emotionally alive. It was like I came home to myself, he said. So what does slow, gentle touch actually look like? It starts with the breath. Deep, steady breathing helps shift the nervous system from fight or flight into rest and receive. That's when the body becomes open to sensation. Then you explore, not with expectation, but with curiosity. You might discover that a slow caress down your stomach or the inside of your arm brings more feeling than you expected, or that simply placing your hand over your heart calms your body in ways you didn't know you needed. The key is to not rush, not chase a result, and definitely not aim for a finish line. This isn't about performance, it's about presence. Think of it like physical therapy. If you had an injured shoulder, you wouldn't fix it by lifting weights or pushing through pain. You'd move slowly, gently, listening to what feels right. That's how the nervous system heals. That's how sensitivity returns. And sensitivity isn't just physical, it's emotional too. Gentle touch can help unlock feelings that have been buried. Grief, longing, tenderness. Feelings that maybe didn't have a place in your life when you were younger, but now deserve to be honored. One man described it as finally touching the part of me I thought I'd lost. That's not just healing, that's transformation. Dr. Bennett often encourages men to set aside dedicated time, not for masturbation, but for connection. Light a candle, turn off distractions, touch your body like it matters. Because it does. Every inch of you holds a story, and slow touch is one way of listening. You might also try using a fragrance-free lubricant to increase comfort and reduce friction. Some men are surprised how much difference that makes. But more important than any technique is your intention. Are you trying to feel something? Or are you trying to feel with yourself? That difference matters. And remember, this isn't a quick fix. You're retraining your body, your nervous system, even your mind. That takes time. But each time you show up with patience and softness, your body learns. It learns that it's safe. It learns that it's worth caring for. And slowly the spark returns. Not just in sensation, but in self-respect. So let's start small. One breath, one moment of touch. Not to get somewhere, but to be right here, with yourself, as you are. That's where healing begins. That's where pleasure lives. Not in the rush, but in the gentle presence you offer to the man you are today. You can follow every physical technique in the book, but if your heart isn't present, pleasure will always feel distant. That's one of the hardest truths for many men to face, especially after 60. Because we've been taught that pleasure is just about the body, about mechanics, friction, and climax. But real satisfaction comes when your body and emotions are in the same room, breathing the same breath. Dr. Michael Bennett often reminds us that orgasm without presence can feel like emptiness. And I've seen that in men who've done everything right, but still in their private moments feeling lonely or even ashamed. It's not because they've done something wrong. It's because a deeper part of them is still waiting to be seen, to be held, to be heard. Take the story of one man I met not long ago. He was 67, a widower, retired school teacher. For years, he avoided any kind of self-touch, not because of religion, not because of pain, but because every time he tried, he felt a wave of guilt, like he was betraying his late wife. Like pleasure was something he no longer deserved. But under that guilt was grief, a grief he had never spoken aloud. His body remembered the love, but his heart hadn't been allowed to mourn. When he finally gave himself space to feel, not just a touch, something opened. He cried, then laughed, then felt warmth in his chest for the first time in years. He told me, "I thought I was broken, but I just needed to be with myself fully." That's the heart of emotional presence, not rushing, not avoiding, but showing up fully for the man you are today, even if that man is hurting, confused, or numb. When you bring emotional presence into self-touch, you transform it from a habit into a form of listening, a form of healing. So how do you begin? Start by turning off distractions. No television, no background noise, no mental checklist of things to do after. Give yourself time, even just 10 minutes. Breathe deeply. Let your breath be slow and steady, and when you touch your body, don't focus only on sensation. Focus on feeling. Notice what emotions rise. Maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's tenderness. Maybe it's joy. Whatever comes, welcome it. Don't push it away. That's your body speaking to you in its most honest language. You can place your hand over your heart or your belly before you begin. This simple gesture reminds the nervous system that it's safe, that you are here, not to perform or to judge, but to connect. And connection means staying present, even when emotions surprise you. Dr. Bennett often suggests saying a few words aloud before starting. Something simple like, "I'm here with you," or "It's okay to feel." This might sound awkward at first, especially if you've never spoken to yourself with kindness. But over time, it creates a new kind of intimacy, the kind that heals what performance never could. And let's be honest, many of us were never taught how to bring emotion into touch. We learned to separate the two, to keep our bodies busy and our hearts quiet. But now, at this stage of life, we have the chance to bring them back together, to say, "I'm allowed to feel pleasure and emotion. I'm allowed to be whole." One man told me, "I used to treat masturbation like a chore, something I had to finish quickly and secretly. Now I treat it like a conversation, and I finally feel like someone is listening." That's the power of emotional presence. It turns a quiet moment into something deeply human, into something sacred. So next time you're alone with yourself, ask this. Not just, what do I feel physically, but what do I feel emotionally? And then listen, gently, without pressure, without shame. Because the more present you are with your emotions, the more alive your body becomes. Not in a rush, not in a script, but in the truth of who you are now. As we get older, our bodies don't bounce back the way they used to. The skin becomes thinner, the tissues more delicate, and blood flow a little slower. These aren't flaws. They're natural changes that come with time. But they also mean we need to listen more carefully to the signals our bodies send, especially during something as intimate as masturbation. Dr. Michael Bennett points out that after 60, what once felt routine can now leave behind discomfort if we're not mindful. That's why recognizing early warning signs is not just smart, it's essential. When your body speaks, it's not complaining. It's asking for care. Let's talk about the signs you should never ignore. Tingling or numbness that lingers, a burning sensation during or after stimulation, unusual swelling or redness. These are your body's way of saying, slow down. It's easy to dismiss them, thinking they'll go away. But when repeated over time, Even small injuries can become long-term problems. And unfortunately, many men don't connect the dots until the issue becomes serious. One man I worked with, age 72, had always prided himself on his strong routine, but lately he noticed he wasn't feeling as much. In fact, his grip had to be tighter just to get any response. After several weeks, he began to feel a strange soreness, not pain exactly, but a rawness that lasted long after he finished. He brushed it off, thinking it was just aging. But it wasn't. It was his body crying out for a change. With Dr. Bennett's guidance, he began checking in weekly, paying close attention to how his tissues felt, not just during stimulation, but afterward. He eased his pressure, added a water-based lubricant, and gave himself longer breaks. Within a month, the soreness vanished and his sensitivity improved. This kind of self-awareness isn't paranoia, it's self-respect. Make it a habit to examine yourself weekly, not just a glance, but a gentle, thoughtful check. Is there any tenderness where there wasn't before? Has the skin changed in color or texture? Are you experiencing any discomfort while urinating or even after climax? These may point to irritation, inflammation, or early signs of issues with the prostate. Speaking of the prostate, don't overlook subtle urinary symptoms. Difficulty starting the stream, dribbling, or a sense that your bladder isn't fully empty. These might not seem related to your pleasure habits, but in older men, they often are. The prostate sits right beneath the bladder, and it responds to both pressure and stimulation. If it becomes inflamed or enlarged, even gentle touch can feel off. So if something feels different, don't power through. Pause, reflect, and if necessary, speak to a trusted doctor. Catching things early can save you months or even years of discomfort. What's the best way to prevent damage? Gentle technique and regular rest. Think of it like muscle recovery. Just as a strained shoulder needs days off, your intimate tissues need time too. There's no shame in spacing things out, especially when it leads to better sensation and safer experiences. Dr. Bennett often recommends alternating days or even setting a rest window after particularly intense sessions. It's not about restriction, it's about honoring your body's need to heal. Also, consider introducing tools designed for sensitivity, not intensity. There are soft sleeves and gentle vibrators made for older men that reduce friction and support blood flow. These aren't toys, they're tools for longevity. Used wisely, they can help you stay in touch with your body without overwhelming it. Above all, stay curious. Ask yourself, how does my body feel after? Not just, did I finish? Because it's in the aftermath that your body tells the truth. Pain, tingling, or emotional numbness, these are all signs worth noticing. Being an older man doesn't mean giving up pleasure. It means deepening your relationship with it. And part of that relationship is listening with care. When you learn to read your body's early messages, you don't just avoid harm, you open the door to more trust, more comfort, and ultimately more joy. At this stage of life, it's time we reframe masturbation not as something impulsive or shameful, but as a conscious, healing practice. The truth is, after 60, sexual pleasure is no longer just a matter of instinct. It becomes a skill, one that needs to evolve with the body. Holding on to routines from our younger years may feel familiar, but they often no longer serve us. Instead, what truly supports our health now is the willingness to create new habits, ones that fit who we are today. That's the heart of Dr. Michael Bennett's approach. He often reminds his older patients that pleasure isn't something you chase, it's something you prepare for, and preparation begins with the environment. If you're still approaching masturbation as a rushed, hidden activity, squeezed between errands or late at night out of habit, it's time to change the setting. Instead of treating it as a secret to squeeze in, treat it as a gift to yourself. Choose a quiet, private time. Dim the lights. Maybe play soft music or light a candle. Small changes like these signal to your nervous system that this is a space for calm, connection, and care. You don't need to recreate a romantic evening. You just need to remove distractions and pressure. Turn off the TV, silence your phone, and let go of any idea that there's a goal you must reach. It's not about finishing quickly, it's about arriving gently. One man I worked with, age 68, used to approach masturbation the way he approached his job, efficient, fast, and focused on results. After his wife passed, he struggled to reconnect with his body. He felt numb. With Dr. Bennett's encouragement, he tried something new. He began setting aside 30 minutes a week, not just to stimulate, but to explore. No rush, no agenda. Over time, his sensation returned. But more than that, his sense of self did too. It wasn't about climax. It was about presence. That's why it's important to shift your mindset. Don't think of masturbation as a task. Think of it as time to be with your body, to check in, to notice what feels good, what feels tender, and what feels like it's asking for more attention. Your body isn't a machine. It's a living story, and this chapter needs a different rhythm. Breathing plays a big role here. Most older men unconsciously hold their breath or breathe shallowly during pleasure. But slow, deep breathing enhances circulation, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, and helps the brain receive signals of safety and openness. When you breathe deeply, your whole body participates in the experience, not just one part. Also, bring curiosity into the mix. Explore areas beyond the genitals. The inner thighs, lower belly, chest, even the palms of your hands. All can hold sensation. Touch is a language, and when spoken slowly, it can awaken parts of you long ignored. Let's not forget how emotion and habit intertwine. If your routine is based on years of tension or secrecy, those emotional imprints remain in the nervous system. But when you create new rituals, simple, honest ones, you begin to rewrite those patterns. Over time, your body starts to associate pleasure not with stress or shame, but with care, rest, and even joy. This isn't about doing things the right way. It's about finding a rhythm that reflects who you are now. What brings comfort? What awakens warmth? What helps you feel whole, not just aroused? Dr. Bennett often compares this to learning to walk after an injury. You don't expect to sprint right away. You take small, conscious steps. You listen, you adjust, and eventually your confidence returns, not because you forced it, but because you honored the process. So let this be your invitation, not to go backward, but to go deeper. Build a new kind of habit, one rooted in awareness, gentleness, and a renewed connection to yourself. Your body has changed, yes, but it still wants to feel. It still wants to be known. And with care, it absolutely still can. If there's one message I hope you take with you from this journey, it's this. You are not broken, you are evolving. What you're going through is not the collapse of something, but the transformation of it. The body you live in now may not respond the way it once did, but that doesn't mean it has betrayed you. It simply means it's asking for something different, something slower, something softer, something more honest. Many men, especially after 60, quietly carry a sense of failure. When touch doesn't lead to the same result, when sensation feels distant or muted, it's easy to believe the worst, to think I've lost it. But the truth is far more hopeful. Dr. Michael Bennett reminds us that pleasure doesn't disappear with age. It changes form. And when we learn to meet it where it is, we often find something richer than we ever imagined. In fact, this chapter of life can be the most intimate, not just sexually, but emotionally. You have nothing left to prove, no one to impress. What you do now, you do for yourself, for connection, for healing, for joy. And that's where real confidence begins, not in performance, but in presence. So take a breath. Let go of the stories that say you're supposed to feel a certain way, act a certain way, or meet some invisible standard. You are not a machine. You are not a statistic. You are a man with history, with depth, with a body that still wants to feel, and a heart that still wants to be touched, not just by others, but by you. Remember the man who said he felt like his body was no longer his? With time, with care, he reclaimed it, not by chasing what once was, but by accepting what is. And that's what I want for you, not perfection, not performance, but peace. The kind of peace that comes when you realize your body is still your ally, that every change it goes through is a part of your story, not the end of it. When you touch yourself, do it not to fix something, but to listen. Let your hand say, I'm still here, I still care, you still matter. This is not about techniques or routines. It's about relationship. With yourself, with your breath, with the skin you live in. It's never too late to reconnect. Whether it's been days, months, or years since you last felt truly present with your body, today can be the beginning of something new. You don't need a map. You don't need permission. You just need the willingness to begin exactly where you are. So please, be gentle, be patient. Give yourself the same tenderness you would give a dear friend or partner. You've come through so much. You've held on, you've grown, and you still deserve joy. You still deserve softness. You still deserve to be touched with care. Dr. Bennett says it best. The body may grow older, but its need for connection never retires. There's wisdom in your bones, and there's still music in your blood. You don't have to chase youth to find meaning. What you need, what you've always needed, is already here. It's in your breath, it's in your skin, it's in the quiet, steady truth that you are worthy of feeling good. Not someday, not when you're better, but now. You are not behind. You are not less. You are becoming. Slowly, gently, fully. And that is something beautiful. And if what I've shared today resonates with you, even just a little, I invite you to take the next small step. Subscribe so you don't miss future insights that could help you feel more connected, more confident, and more alive in your own body.